tienes el alma de provinciana, hueles a limpia rosa temprana. Ave de paro, fuente de río, son tus palomas mi caserío. Guadalajara, Guadalajara, hueles a pura tierra mojada.
Welcome to Mexican Madness, an exploration of Mexican and Southwestern cookery, interpreted by some of the great chefs of America. From New York City, Zarela Martinez, Bobby Flay and Lynn Aronson, Mark Holiger from New Orleans, and from Washington, D.C., Mark Miller.
Mark Miller's Red Sage restaurant in the nation's capital has been the talk of that very talkative town since it opened in 1992. A visit from President and Mrs. Clinton didn't hurt. But Chef Miller's cooking does not need celebrity hype. An example is his lamb loin and Pueblo Flatbread. It begins with preparation of the bread.
2 cups of all-purpose flour. Add our dry ingredients first. Tablespoon of sugar. Tablespoon of salt. And 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This is a very simple mixture, and it's an all-purpose bread. You can fry it, you can bake it, you can use it as a pizza bottom. It's a real popular bread here at the restaurant. Now we're going to add our wet ingredient. We're going to chop up, before we add our milk, we're going to chop up our herbs a little bit more. They're a little bit too big. Okay? So here we have our sage, our chive, and our fresh marjoram. Okay? That's good enough. We don't want to get the herbs too fine, but we also want them to distribute evenly throughout the dried ingredients to distribute the flavor. Okay. So we've got our dried herbs, our fresh herbs. It's also, if you use dried herbs in this recipe, they tend to burn and not give you the flavor that you need. So really use some fresh herbs, even if you just have to use like fresh parsley and one other herb. The sage is the most important one. Okay. We're going to add our wet ingredients, our 1 cup of milk. We're going to put that together. We've put our dough together, and we're going to get a nice ball that's not too dry, again, not too soft. So get our herbs now. You can cover this in plastic and put it in the refrigerator and make this a day ahead of time. It holds perfectly well. You can use it, roll it out for a pizza dough. So we're going to lightly roll this out on a floured surface.
A trimmed loin of lamb is used, flavored with the Southwestern dry rub.
We're going to flavor this with a dried rub, which has mostly chilies, also aniseed, dried coriander, fresh thyme, dried oregano, and a hot chili, a little bit of black pepper, and some salt. And we're just going to roll that in our dry marinade, give the loin a little bit more flavor and a little crust, and seal in those juices. Again, a light coat. You could put some sage in here, but I like a mixture of sage or thyme, certainly, that gives you some of those deserty tones. We're going to take our loin. Now you want to have the loin cold. If you have the loin at room temperature and you dry sear it, it'll start cooking too much. So that by the time we wrap it with our dough, we'll end up with a medium or medium well loin. So it's important that you have your loin cool or cold to do the dry searing. And again, we don't want to cook this till it's blackened. We just want to cook it about a minute and a half on each side. And here we're going to cook just the 2 sides, not the sides. All right, we're going to take the lamb loin off. Just gives it a little bit of crust. There we go. You can also use a venison loin for this. You can also use it pork loin or veal loin for this dish. It's a really, really nice centerpiece. This is one of the dishes that we use for Valentine's Day when the President and Mrs. Clinton came for dinner. Red sage. Here we've got our Pueblo bread rolled out with the fresh herbs in it. We can stretch it out a little bit. Want to get it about 1/4 of an inch thin. Want to take off most of the flour after we've rolled it out off the surfaces. We don't need that. So I've made a mixture of spicy black bean that's been pureed with fresh mint.
The black bean spread is also flavored with roasted cumin seed, roasted oregano, and chipotle chili sauce.
Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our loin and we're going to cover it with some blanched mustard greens, which we've blanched off in a little bit of salted water and then cooled off. The bigger mustard greens, we're going to pull out part of that center stem that's a little bit tough. Put the mustard greens down. We'll put our loin of lamb on top. And then we're going to, again, pull out those big center stems and put enough mustard greens around in order to fully encase the whole loin. These greens are a little bit wet, so I'm going to put them, make sure that they're dry, because otherwise you won't get a nice crusty lamb. Put that last green down, and we're going to just pick up some of that excess moisture here in our greens, because we don't want our pastry to be soggy inside. Okay? Bring that up. Bring those over. We've got our little mustard green package. The last ingredient that we're going to add is goat cheese. And the goat cheese, you can use an unflavored goat cheese, either domestic. I think a lot of the Americans really make great goat cheeses now. This is a goat cheese from California. We also have goat cheeses from New Mexico, upper state New York. And you want to put a fairly thick coat of the goat cheese, because of course the goat cheese is going to melt. It's going to create that sort of tanginess and sort of coolingness against the bitterness of the mustard greens and some of the chili. We're going to bring our sides up. And we're going to pinch our ends down. We're going to cut our ends off or not use them, so it's not important that we get that seam. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to use an egg wash, which is a whole egg mixed with a little bit of cream or milk to give it some color. Now we're going to put egg wash the bottom and the sides and the top. We're going to cook this in about a 450 degree oven. If you have a convection oven at home, it'll take a little less time. And if you have a regular oven, make sure that you get a hot oven. Otherwise, the bread won't color and the meat will cook too quickly. Turn that over. And we've got a lightly buttered sheet pan to bake this on.
In a standard oven, bake the packet at 375 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes.
We're going to put this into our wood-burning oven. This is an oven that was especially made for us that uses wood. We get some of that wood smoky tones, and this oven's burned very quickly and stay very hot.
Vegetable for this dish is a ragu of roasted corn, blackened Roma tomatoes, and a melange of wild mushrooms and garlic sautéed in olive oil.
Here we got our different kinds of wild mushrooms with our garlic. They've been sautéed. Get our morels, our black trumpets de Moritz, fresh chanterelles, a little bit of portobello. Nice woodsy flavors. We're going to add to that some blackened tomato. And we're going to add our dry roasted corn. Now at this point, all of our ingredients have already been cooked. Our tomatoes have been blackened. Our corn is already cooked. So we don't want to cook this too long because our corn will get too starchy. Get nice colors there. You know? And we're going to add a little bit of toasted Mexican wild oregano. We're going to add a little bit of our chipotle and adobo, again our smoked chili sauce here. Gives us a little vinegar and a little bit more of that smoky tones and a little bit more chili flavor. We want to cook this only for about 2 to 3 minutes.
The lamb loin will be served on a bed of this ragu. The lamb and flatbread is carved for service.
Okay, we've got our two ends off. We're going to cut it. You can either cut it in sections and lie it down. You could probably make about, if you want to serve it as a smaller portions, you'd make a large one and then cut it across and lie it. Here we're going to cut it in a diagonal and do it sort of triangular so that it really looks pretty standing up on the plate. Okay, this is a serrated edge knife, which is a little bit easier. And if you can look at that, we've got our nice color of our lamb with our black bean and mustard greens and our goat cheese. Put that one pocket going one way and another pocket going the other way.
A lamb stock-based sauce flavored with a number of southwestern products and spiked with orange zest completes presentation.
We're going to finish our dish with our strained stock with our flavor of the cinnamon. You can smell the cinnamon and the orange and the smoked chili with a little arbol jus.